New this morning, state lawmakers are considering a bill to crack down on fertility fraud after a shocking case came to light in Wallingford. Victoria Hill told CNN that she discovered her biological father wasn't the man who raised her and in fact was a fertility doctor who used his own sample without her mother's consent. Hill says this physician, Burton Caldwell, also fathered at least 23 other children. The bill introduced in the state capitol would prohibit physicians from using their own sample and also allow potential victims to recover damages in court if a physician is found guilty. Hill will speak about her experience during a rally in support of this bill at 9 o'clock this morning.